Here is what Lindsey Graham had to say about this recent talk that you may have heard from people like President Biden and Joe Manchin, that the filibuster should continue, but you should actually have to filibuster when you filibuster. Here's what Senator Graham thinks.
Said you talked to Joe Manchin. This is an important question because he said, I want to make it harder. Joe Biden last night said he wants to bring back, if you want to filibuster, you actually have to get up and keep talking, and you don't get to get a bathroom break. Yeah. Okay, that would be bringing it back, but then there would be an end to the filibuster. Then Mitch McConnell weighed in and said it's going to be like a 100-car pileup because you're going to have a quorum or unanimous consent to even turn the lights on at noon, which I kind of like for Mitch McConnell. It surprised me.
Well, no, Mitch is right. A 50-50 Senate, you can't do anything without unanimous consent that matters. And to have a quorum, you got to have 51 people present, and the vice president doesn't count. So if they did this, we could really shut down the entire Senate because we just won't show up. And here's what Biden needs to understand. If you go to the talking filibuster, we will take the floor to stop H.R. 1. I would talk till I fell over to make sure that we don't go to ballot harvesting and voting by mail without voter ID. I would talk till I fell over to make sure that the Equality Act doesn't become law, destroying the difference between a man and woman in our law. So
can
that
you
means
stop
you can't
that,
do anything else.
Do you believe?
Yes.
So there's no way they're going to get away with ending the legislative filibuster.
Not with a 50-50 Senate, but I'm here to tell you that if we do not pick up one more seat in 2022, or at least regain the House, if they had 52 Democrats, they would deal Joe Manchin out, and they would change the rules of the Senate.
What does taking over the House have to do specifically with that? I mean, his general point, I think, is that they can then go back to stopping everything in a different way, but that has nothing to do with the filibuster. Anyway, Brett, there's a lot there. Really fast, I'd like to say that my overall point, there's other specific points. My overall point is how scared they are, not just at the prospect of not having the filibuster. I get why they would be worried about that. That's what they need. But how terrified they are at the prospect of having to actually filibuster. And it really just, like, all of those arguments about how the filibuster is this great tradition, it leads to bipartisanship, or it's a part of it being the greatest deliberative body in the world and all of that. Immediately, once you ask them to do it like it had been done in the past, they have no interest whatsoever, which I think shows how hollow those arguments actually are.
There is a lot to unpack. First of all, we can't overstate the importance of HR 1 as it relates to the filibuster. So HR 1 is largely a voting rights act. There's a lot of anti-corruption stuff that, as Cenk has said many times, will be taken out of it probably, but the voting rights issues are very necessary for this filibuster, because without the filibuster, if we do go back to a talking filibuster, and it goes back to the way that the framers of the Constitution originally set up the country to function, if we go back to that, then it's going to take 50 votes to do anything in the Senate. Now, the issue is, it is already, for two reasons, more likely that Republicans will win in the Senate. Will win the Senate. It's just there's more Republican leaning states than there are Democratic states. And so, and then when you look at like the way that gerrymandering has happened, as Republicans have invested jillions of dollars over the years to make it so that in states when they draw their districts, Republicans are overrepresented as it comes down to like a proportion of the population. So we need to keep our eye on the ball in that it absolutely needs to be tied to HR 1 to make it so that we have ways of ensuring that everybody gets a vote, because when everybody gets a vote, then Democrats tend to win more. And in the Senate, they're already at a disadvantage. So if everybody got to vote, it's very likely that Democrats would still be at a disadvantage in the Senate. So that's one thing to focus on. We need to establish these voting rights, because otherwise what'll happen is the Democrats will get in here and they'll establish the $15 an hour minimum wage. And then the Republicans will get in the next time, because the gerrymandering in the Senate disproportionately represents Republicans, and it'll just swing back the next time.
Maybe.
It'll probably just swing back the next time. That's one.
I don't know. I mean,
that's just one dynamic.
Did the ACA totally swing back? Like I think that's what they would have you believe. That's what Mitch McConnell basically said, but I wonder if that's actually true. A lot of these big pieces of legislation were, I'm sure maybe with the voting rights, but some of the ones like, I mean, they didn't immediately come back in and get rid of the ACA. They did try, to their credit, but some of these things are difficult to get rid of. And that's one of the reasons they work so hard to try to block them, is that they know that people would really like them.
Right, so yes, that was a bad example in terms of something wildly popular like the $15 an hour minimum wage would be, but other thing, just any other thing. But there's something else to drill down on here, which is Lindsey Graham, when we go back to the filibuster, that it requires you to talk, which is a filibuster. Otherwise, it's just we just redefined the filibuster when we changed the rules in 1974 or 5. Like when they talk about the Byrd rule and reconciliation, all that stuff just magically appeared in the 1970s. So if these guys like Lindsey Graham really want to adhere to what the founding fathers created, it isn't even the founding fathers, anything before like 1972 and before. That's what Biden and Manchin are both advocating for, is going back to that. And I think the one thing that we haven't gotten to yet is that a promise, Lindsey? Is that a promise that you're gonna filibuster everything? And
until
just what he thinks is popular versus not popular. Like, dude, HR1, people getting to vote, more people getting to vote. Yeah, people like that. Just ask them. But he knows that they don't want that. And then every other, like the Equality Act, he just sold. He thinks it's a winning argument to say men and women should not be equal. Dare ya?
Now, by the way,
you got 18 hours. Go ahead and talk about it. And it's not until you fall over; it's till you have to pee. And you're not going to pull a Strom Thurmond where someone brought a pee bucket to the hallway so he keep 1 foot on the floor when he did his 24-hour talking filibuster.
Oh, geez.
It failed, by the way.
Exactly. Now, look, the opposing really popular stuff like that, they're willing to do that. They like doing it the way they have been doing that, with implied filibusters that they don't have to actually do, because that's hidden, it's obscured. Having Lindsey Graham actually stand for 24 straight hours to stop people from getting higher wages, that would be highly unpopular. So they can threaten that they're gonna filibuster literally everything. In practice, will they? I think probably a lot less than they say, because they know how unpopular that would be if you were to actually do the filibuster the way the movies say that they should be done.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.